Zionism has been made a dirty word in the West over the last 50 years, associated with blood libels and the idea of occupation. Now there's a new epitaph, that of being a Christian Zionist. Tricia Miller from the Committee for Accuracy in Middle East Reporting and Analysis explains more. And here's our recent interview from the Christian Media Summit. Tricia Miller, great to be with you. You've written an article about defending Christian Zionism because it's become under attack. First of all, what is Christian Zionism?
Christian Zionism is simply the Christian belief in Zionism, which is simply the right of Jews to self-determination in their ancient homeland. That's it. It's not more complicated than that.
Tell us the history of Christian Zionism. How far back does it go?
It goes back to the first century. Actually, with Jesus and his apostles, you can see references in the Gospels to the expectation of the future restoration of the kingdom of Israel. It wasn't called that then. We've labeled that now, maybe in the last couple hundred years, but there is a 2,000-year history of Christian belief in the restoration of Israel.
And how does it go through the centuries?
It's in the Gospels, first of all. There were several church fathers who had this great expectation. One of them was Tertullian, and he was a 3rd century leader, and this is his quote: "It will be fitting for the Christian to rejoice and not to grieve at the restoration of Israel, if it be true, as it is, that the whole of our hope is intimately united with the remaining expectation of Israel." The whole of our hope, the Christian hope, is intimately united with the remaining expectation of Israel. And then there were medieval theologians and Protestant Reformation theologians, but there's one other quote I wanted to read. Jonathan Edwards, an influential British theologian from the 18th century, he said, "Israel would again be a distinct nation, and Christians would have free access to Jerusalem because Jews would look on Christians as their brethren." And we are living in that day now. We are seeing Israel as a distinct nation, and Christians have free access to Jerusalem because Israel ensures freedom of religion for everyone here, and the Jews are understanding Christians to be their brethren.
So based on the history of Christian Zionism, what is your message right now to Christians?
My message to Christians is that they need to understand this is a biblical belief. Tucker Carlson called it Christian heresy. It is not heresy, it's biblical. It goes back to the beginnings of Christianity historically, but it's rooted in our belief all the way back to Genesis that God made this unconditional and eternal covenant with the Jewish people, the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
You mentioned that last night about the covenant God made with himself.
Yes. Yeah, in Genesis 15, God gave Abram, before his name was changed to Abraham, gave him the instructions on how to set up the ceremony to make the covenant. Animals were cut in half and then put opposite each other with a space for people to walk between. This was an ancient Near East custom of how to make a covenant. And the parties making the covenant would walk between those animals. Well, in this case, the text says that once Abram got finished preparing it, he fell asleep. A deep sleep came on Abram. He fell asleep. And then symbols of the presence of God that appear multiple places in the Hebrew Bible, they pass between the cut up animals. So it was God making the covenant alone. That means he's only responsible for fulfilling the covenant. And this is important for Christians to understand because so many times throughout history, Christians have said, the Jews are done. God's finished with the Jewish people. He doesn't care about them because, and then they have all kinds of reasons of something they've done or haven't done, that the covenant no longer is in place. But the covenant is in place because Abram wasn't even part of making it. So it doesn't matter what the Jews do or don't do. It's only dependent on God keeping it, and God does not fail. God keeps his covenant.